Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. Today, we are going to be talking about a question I was asked this last week. I got the opportunity to do 3 workshops, and it was amazing and had some great questions come up. One of them was simply, how do I know if my child is spending too much time on screens? And I love this. While we've talked previously about a question like this, about a reset, well, that would be relationships and responsibilities, emotions, sleep, enjoyment, and time. I wanted to come at this with a different angle because this parent had just heard a whole workshop walking through a reset and still had this question. So while look at the reset, is it impeded by any of this technology, is a wonderful starting spot. Let's actually think of it a different way, because this could go down all the way down to like a 2-year-old. All the research you read would say, hey, before 2, children should not be in front of screens for any meaningful amount of time. They don't need to watch shows. They don't need it for distraction or amusement. Young children are naturally coded to begin to self-soothe. So given the right set of circumstances, that they don't have a messy diaper and that they aren't, actively hungry or sleep deprived or cutting a tooth, right? Like all those things, they will distract themselves. They'll stare at lights. They'll stare at your face. They'll listen to sounds. Like their brain is actively trying to learn. They don't need shows. So we're talking 2 years old and older, up till 17 in our case, minors who are still in your home. And I'm going to ask 3 questions. The first is, do I use screen time as a babysitter? Meaning, my child is bothering me and I want my child to go do something else. Is it appropriate then for me to put my child in front of a screen so I can shower, so I can start a meal, so I can? Absolutely, that's fine. I'm simply asking the question. You said, is it too much screen time? 1, am I using it as a babysitter? And if you say, yeah, 30 minutes a day, I need a digital babysitter so that I can function or think my own thoughts or do some work or pay bills or whatever it is. But it's question number 1. Question number 2, does my child fight me on screen time limits? So I use this digital babysitter, and then when the babysitter goes away, this child battles me. Or we say, hey, you can watch 30 minutes once a week, twice a week. You can play an hour on the weekends, whatever our rules are, but we don't have contentment or agreement. It's a constant battle. I'm getting peppered and bothered until eventually I just capitulate and say, fine, it's do whatever you need to do because I can't say no anymore. I'm too tired. So is that happening? Babysitter first, and then is there a constant battle over time? And then third and finally, is missed screen time. So expected screen time that does not happen. They're expecting the digital babysitter and it doesn't come. Does that lead to consistent fights in your family? Of these 3, for your child having too much screen time, is it a digital babysitter? There are a constant battle about the amount of time. And if time is missed, does it lead to constant parental combat, where instead of fighting for your child, you're fighting with them all the time about it. And in those 3 cases, if you're getting yeses in multiple of those, that's where we want to start looking at, hey, this screen time might be extending beyond what we wanted. Does it still align with our reset? Yes, but this is just another way to think of it. Those 3, I think, are very practical and applicable and a really easy way for us as parents to go, oh man, I think it's out of control. And if you've got there, like this parent did at this workshop, there are very clear steps that we can take. In fact, there's really one very clear step we can take, and it's simply draw down the amount of screen time they have. 2 ways to do this, depending how far in you are. Some families, it is so out of control that your child has drool tech in the bedroom that they run on an honor system that you don't really vet, and they are spending numerous hours over and above what you've asked them to spend. They are probably losing sleep. They might be skipping work, and there's attitude and relational conflict that has come up, and it's a point of concern. If that is your case, where I would start is a simple conversation on tech getting out of the bedroom. So you're established as a loving parental guideline. Drool tech in the bedroom, there's no research that says it's a good idea. That smartphones, video game consoles, smart TVs, devices that connect to the internet should not be in a bedroom. Bedrooms are places for rest. The internet is a place to go and participate in a wide range of digital responsibilities, but it's not made for kids. It's not safe for kids. Therefore, it should not be independently used in isolated and private places that are intended for rest and study. So it comes out, that's number one. Technology, drool tech specifically, out of the bedroom. And then number two, we are going to cut in half the amount of time your child has been playing or watching or listening or whatever it might be, engaging social media. So if your child is averaging 5 to 8 hours a day, you're going to cut it to 2.5 to 4 hours a day. And you're going to actually set that guideline. I like this for two reasons. One, it allows you a really simple, very firm parental stance of, hey, this is unhealthy. We just talked about those three. You've been using this to basically get out of the way. And as a parent, I can own that. You know what? This has been simple, but it's not good. So I'm going to change that. Two, we have a lot of fights around screen time and limits, and I've just given up fighting, but I'm not over fighting for you. This is unhealthy. You can point to reset at this point. I see your relationship suffering. I've seen your emotions tilt. You've told me that you're feeling anxious. I've seen your sleep get impeded. There's no way it's not when there's this much stimulation, interaction, engagement in the same space you're trying to calm your brain and body down and go to sleep. So then you use those talking points and you say, so here's what we're going to do. You've been averaging whatever, an hour, 3 hours, 5 hours a day on this technology. We're going to cut it in half. And that's our baseline start. Two things. One, really easy to justify, quote unquote, only 1, 3, 4 hours a day of this technology. And it's a 50% reduction. So you are going to see an immediate conversation point when that young person does not know what to do with that extra time. So you get the parenting opportunity. You get the chance to come in and own your part of this and say, hey, this was out of hand. It's unhealthy for you and I love you. And you're still giving them a very reasonable path forward where you can now begin to work on contentment. There's a very good chance, parents, they will not be content. And that gives you your next conversation point. And I'm actually telling you to do this with the expectation of it's going to cause another conversation. There's going to be pushback and backlash, and there's going to be this further drawdown of technology because you're basically going to prove it. Their initial pushback is going to be, I don't have a problem. Your next conversation piece is, that may be true. We're going to start here. We're going to figure out where the problem is. I can point to your grades. I can point to your relationships. I can point to your attitude. I can point to your engagement. I can point to your sleep. I can point to research. This is a bad idea. I can point to my failures as a parent because I'm a broken person in need of Jesus, just like you are. And I'm going to do what I need to do on a parental side to equip you to be present in the life and the body that God's given you. So we begin with a half drawdown of your tech time, and let's see where it goes. Let's see what conversations happen next. So that's where we begin if you're on that side. If this is just like, and I say this because I am continually meeting parents who are like, hey, I've got a 13-year-old. We gave him a computer, her a computer last year, the year before. And it went from this was kind of cute and cool. And they were, playing some Minecraft and doing some FaceTime calls to we don't see them. They come home or they take their one-to-one device into their room and they are gone for hours. Like they get home before we get home from work. We know they're on that device for hours. They may or may not come out for dinner and they spend hours until we shut off the Wi-Fi or go to bed and hope they go to bed or whatever it might be. And so I wanted to address that part first. You have these same three questions. It's babysitter. There's a fight on screen time, and missed expected tech time is causing a conflict in the family. So this could be a sibling has a sporting event and everyone's going. We're going on a road trip and the tech won't be there. We're going to even go do something as a family that's fun, like go to the theater, but this tech isn't coming with us. And that's a constant battle because this young person is expecting interaction with this screen. It can get ugly. It can be traumatic. People will break sweats. That young person will let you know that he or she is deeply annoyed with your life choices in engaging their tech, and that should not dissuade you. In fact, it should encourage you. Those are our three for is my child getting too much screen time? On the one case, it's way too much time. We're going to draw it in half. We're going to set up boundaries and get tech out of the room. On the other side, we are simply going to agree on an average child in an afternoon has basically 5 30-minute blocks of activity. You can take one. That is above and beyond. You can say, no, we're not going to do any. We're not doing any technology for this week until the weekend. You can watch it Friday night. We'll do a movie night and we can do other things. Perfectly fine. You're not going to hurt your kid. The reason I don't suggest that with the 8 hours a day scenario is I believe your family doesn't have the, the analog muscles with which to do the heavy lifting of fun at the pace of real life. So you're going to still have that half of your time, and then you're going to begin as a family to develop, what do we do? How do we engage one another? And how do we make this fun? And how do we process boredom? And how do we provide enough opportunities for our child to learn and grow that they don't take their malcontent and their desire for the internet to just simply go and, begin hacking our systems and finding ways around our boundaries. But instead, this is lovingly redirecting and really trimming and pruning our child so that these negative ingrown habits of turning to the internet, music, streaming, and video games, in order to be okay, can instead be kind of eased out and pointed back towards real life adventures and the beauty and curiosity and awe that God has designed your child for. So that's on the one side. We have a kid who's probably farther down that path than we'd want. There's a little bit of different turning of the ship than with a younger person, where the cold turkey is from 30 minutes to 0. And that's easy enough to redirect, right? 30 minutes is not so overwhelming. So in our case, we have found in this season, technology is acceptable. It's all social technology, meaning we're doing it together. And even if they're doing Khan Academy, they're doing it in an open space. So they're not in a bedroom. That's how we set boundaries around our technology. That's how we think about, is my child having too much? But then it's the question of, okay, what do we do with our bodies? And the rest of this time, analog adventures, baby. I am a big fan of this term. It, for me, makes a lot of sense. And I hope it makes a lot of sense for you as soon as I'm done explaining it. Parents, as we strive to raise kids who love God and use tech, it's intimidating to look at this next stage of life and think about what academics may look like for them. When you're thinking about college, consider George Fox University for your children because of 3 things. First, it's going to give you a more intimate, known environment where they have a focus on being known personally, academically, and spiritually. Your child will grow in their faith. 93% of undergrad students at George Fox last year, through the 2025 academic year, said that being at George Fox has helped them grow in their relationship with Jesus. We also want them to grow academically, which means being a part of a university with rigorous academic standards and opportunities to be engaged. They have a nationally recognized engineering, nursing, and education programs, as well as chances to study abroad here within the U.S. and then internationally. And finally, personally, to be part of a vibrant campus atmosphere where you can play intramural sports or part of their NCAA Division III athletic programs with 23 sports available. The goal here is to go to a place that's going to support your goals, not try to make you support theirs. To have that goal be to raise you up to be all God's called you to be, and to truly equip your young person with in my case, my sons or my daughter, to love God, and then from their love of God to go wherever God has called them. And that includes being equipped with a degree that'll help them do that, to be missionally equipped, to love and serve others, to lead where God has planted them, and to know the gospel for themselves and be able to share it with others. So George Fox University is an amazing resource for our kids, for our community here in the Northwest, and for anyone who's looking to raise up a young person who can love God and from that, love others. Analog adventures is the idea of having fun at the pace of real life. And while you can do this digitally, I found that gets confusing for people. So let's just focus about actual real world adventures. What do? We are going to begin with some simple analog adventures, starting with books. Because books you can do with your child as young as 2, 3, 4. You can do with your child as old as 12, 13, 14. I was at Young Life Camp as a camp leader with a bunch of 8th graders who were at camp, some of them quasi against their will, right? Like their parents like, you're going to camp because your phone won't work there. It's going to be amazing. We were out in the desert of Oregon at Washington Family Ranch, the Creekside side. And it turns out you take The Hobbit, or you take The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and you go, hey guys, it's lights out. It's whatever time it was, 9 p.m. Lay down in your beds. I'm going to read. And you read for 30 minutes out loud. First of all, 9/10 of them will just conk out. Second of all, like they'll shush each other because they're trying to listen. And then it's no longer you like walking around a camp trying to tell these kids, go to bed, get off my lawn. Instead, you're doing something with them and enjoying a good story. And they love being read too. And I don't know about you, but like I love a good audiobook, and young people love this. It's a way you can get a win. Read a picture book, read a storybook, read the Bible. But read with and to your children. If you want to go with then, okay, how do we build on analog adventures? We did our Reading Aloud, Read Aloud Revival, by the way, by Sarah McKenzie, is a great book. Or Gladys Hunt's book, Honey for a Child's Heart. If you want, like I have a 10-year-old, what should I have my child read, or what can we read together? Both of those books will give you great suggestions. We literally have a printed version of the Gladys Hunt list on our fridge, and we just like cross them off as the kids are reading through, because it can be so hard to find interesting and engaging books. So that's a resource. Another version of the same analog adventure. So reading, our kids have a local little book library. So not the city library that we go to, but one of those like take a book, leave a book things. And you can actually build one of these for yourself. Now, if you have the cash flow, you can go make this happen yourself. You can go to Amazon. I'll give you a link. It's $100. You buy one and have it shipped to you and install it yourself. There are also options for buying kits or like really fancy versions that are pre-assembled. And these are several $100 if you want. I'll include a link for it because I think it's cool. It's the little free library. It does a great job with it. They may have a good product. And then there's also like a basic build your own. I'll include it. It is from Family Handyman. And there's 10 kind of schematics that you can use if you want to build your own, from very simple to very complex. But again, it's around the idea of our family reading together, but this is a building project we can do. And this could take 1 or 2 slots a day. I mean, a hardware project is going to be one of those 30-minute chunks. And you can spend 30 minutes a day building your library, 30 minutes a day reading. And now you are at least 1 hour in of the 5 total blocks of time you will have between returning home from school. So let's say you get home at 3:30. Let's say you don't eat till 6 p.m. That's only 5 chunks. You eat dinner, you do whatever prep you need for the next day, and like your family's rolling into bedtime. Like it's 7:30, 8 o'clock, and like we're brushing teeth, putting jammies on, doing our family read time, sing a song, read your Bible, pray together, and like that's your day, folks. Maybe if you have a high school or someone's coming home from a sport and those kinds of things, like, but we're talking the youngers that need a little bit more adjustment to a lower tech environment. Read a book and a project based on your book, real easy win here. The next option for an analog adventure could be board games. Board games are fantastic. They're well designed. They're colorful. They're engaging. There's a wide age group. And I just re-updated my board game list suggestions for you, ages 3 and 4. I have 3 lists and then honorable mentions, or 3 games. 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13 plus. I give 3 suggestions based off my kiddos and my 17 nieces and nephews. The junior high group I used to run called the International League of Super Acquaintances. And we had a board game club and then a separate club where we talked about video games but did not play them. And these games have made it through both of those groups, through my own nieces, nephews, children, and then this Ilosa crew. These games work. If you want to have fun with your family and you want a block or 2 where you're like, hey, a couple times a week, we need something we can do that's fun and interactive and it's rules and may even be fantastical, kind of like those games we used to enjoy, but we're not playing as much of, so where else can we get that? This list will get you set. Again, games for 3 and 4-year-olds. Shout out to Unicorn Glitter Luck, the game in which Hadley found in a board game shop, picked it up, turned to me and said, Daddy, we don't have any games that have unicorns. Blink, blink. And now I own a game that has unicorns. So we know how that story ended. But these are games that will work, that are engaging. You don't have to love fantastical things or in-depth rule books. Some of them will, and I try to make note of that. Please read about them before you buy it. But they are age appropriate based on the experience I've seen. Outside of the box is generally pretty accurate, but often I've seen if it says 10 plus, you can usually play it with 7, 8, 9. If it says 13 plus, 15 plus, like believe them. It's gonna be pretty intense. It's a pretty steep climb there at the end. And so the 13 plusers are not games I would try to play with super young children just because of the amount of reading or like the steps involved in rules. Third is you can do some art together. Art Hub Kids is on YouTube, and I always mess this up, guys. I'm sorry if it's Kids Art Hub, then I apologize, but you can YouTube it. And it's an awesome, and again, I'll have a link in the show notes. It's an awesome opportunity for the kids to be able to do art at their own pace. We set up a laptop on our dining table. We put out little plastic mats so they don't draw on the table. And then either siblings, we have 2 or more, or even we've done this with friends when they come over and they're like, hey, we want something to do. Hadley just had a friend over this week. They jumped on the trampoline, they dressed up as princesses, and then for 20 minutes, they did a drawing lesson. And it's very sweet, crayons or markers or whatever you want to do. And it works really, really well. So board games, art, books, and I guess I was just on an A and B kick here because baking is going to be the third. Making food prep and food engagement a regular part of your family rhythm is very fun, but it does take work. It does take emotional investment because those kids are going to absolutely destroy your kitchen. We just did this. We made, oh my goodness, Magnolia Market or whatever had a like pie that Owen found, and it was like a campfire pie. Not great instructions, I will say, but it turned out great, and the kids loved it, and they got to participate in it. Henry last Christmas got one of the America's Test Kitchen. I strongly recommend America's Test Kitchen products, especially when using them for young people, because they have baking products and pie making products and food cooking. And food cooking, you get what I'm trying to say here. They have a nice, what would you say, a gauge for how difficult it's going to be, for how long it's going to take, but then they tell you what to expect. So they don't just say whip until light and fluffy. They say whip until, and then they give you like an analogy that makes sense to someone who's never baked before. Because sometimes baking says words that they think you know what that means, and we don't know what that means. So it is very nice. America's Test Kitchen has proven to be something that's really simple. We've also used things like Radish, which is like a subscription service where they help you make food. We've loved the books by Danielle Cartez, Rustic Joyful Food, I believe is her most recent book. So we've used those as a family as well. But the Radish is great. They send you a monthly meal plan. Rustic Joyful Food, she has a great website you can go through. And then most recently, the America's Test Kitchen has been awesome. So we have books, we have board games, we have art, and we have baking, all as options to do with these 5 blocks of time instead of all of this tech time. What we're trying to see here then is on our kids who are really struggling with healthy tech to help them figure out, how do I do something as frustrating as baking when you know you're going to fail at some point? How do I do something as frustrating as a board game where the rules don't take care of themselves? I can't just button mash, I have to read and figure it out. And oh, by the way, speaking of board games, please be okay doing it wrong the first 5 or 6 or 10 times. And we've all played, Ann and I have played games with the kids, and then me and the boys have played games where we realize like weeks after playing it multiple times that we've missed a rule, or we've thought a rule was one way and we see it another. There are great resources for this, but the goal is not get all the rules right the very first time so you can be a competitive tournament player. Like, the point is have fun and like play this game and learn it together and laugh when you realize weeks in that this major rule is different. You'd be like, oh, that does make sense. Like we wondered why that unit was so strong, or why this card didn't, do anything, because we're like, of course that's exactly how you'd play it. Why does this card say that? In fact, that's usually when we realize we have it wrong, when there's like a special rule and we're like, why would this special rule do something that we've been doing anyway? So that just to say, board games or any of these activities, baking, it's not because you're baking for competition or to be on the British baking show. You're baking because it's fun. It happens at the pace of real life. You get a fun treat to share with others. You get the pride of knowing like we did this, and like there's confidence in that. There's a risk and a responsibility that goes with baking and cleaning up afterwards and participating in it together and being frustrated when things don't go the way you want them to, because, well, unlike video games, physics doesn't care what you want. It only cares what you do. And so baking gets the best of all of us at some point. So that being said, this is how we can know. First, is our child spending too much time on screens? We look at screens as a babysitter, so heart, intent as parents, and then also the time for our kids. It is not bad to use technology to get yourself some time to just breathe or walk or have a conversation as adults in the other room. We will do this. Ann and I will let the kids watch a show so that we can sit just simply one room over and like talk through our calendar or just sit and stare at each other for a couple minutes and be like, I can't form words. So that's fine. And if your babysitting is getting to the point where you are sending them off for extended periods of time and losing track of your tech, or you're finding that you need this time just to be away from them and it's not actually improving, you're not getting energized or focused or accomplished, you're just sending them because it's the lowest common denominator, we note that. Does your child fight the screen time limits then, either because of the babysitting or because it's just a battle thing and they can't be content? And third and finally, is their missed screen time consistently causing fights? And if so, we draw down our screen time. We get it out of rooms either way, and we throw in some analog adventures. We learn how to have fun at the pace of real life. We get out there with reading, books, and maybe even building a book library. We play some board games, we do some art, and we do some baking. And maybe there's some sundry side things. We get a basketball hoop, we get a trampoline, we get something. You can find foosball tables in most areas for pretty inexpensive because they're used. Go on your Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, whatever it is around you, and you can find these things for pennies on the dollar. Throw that in your garage or somewhere where you can have a space where these kids can go do something that is happening at the pace of real life and it's interactive and fun. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope it's encouraging. I know it's a long answer. This obviously isn't the answer I gave at the workshop this week, but it is one I wanted to walk through. It made me realize, man, reset alone, while that makes a lot of sense in my head, like we need another way to think about it. But please know that like what we just talked about is applying the reset concept, that we're looking at relationships and emotions and sleep and enjoyment and time. And then we're finding ways to say, you're doing great at this. Our tech boundaries are working. I'm so proud of how you are learning to use the best tech well. Or we're saying, hey, I love you so much. This tech seems like it's hindering some of your growth and we need to make some changes. Own it for yourself. Own it in front of your kid. Do not blame or shame them for the way tech may be unhealthy in their life, but also don't excuse it. Let's make sure that we're making the interventions that need to happen so our children can have the space and the mental bandwidth and the emotional maturity to love God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love their neighbors as themselves, to be an active part of your family, and to be able to process the journey God has them on. There's some hard questions that need to be asked. There's some faith questions that need to be processed and that they need to experience. And it's very hard to experience them when we're constantly distracted. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, nathan@gospeltech.net, or on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Love God Use Tech. And then check out the show notes so you can get that board game list, because I'll be very serious. It took me way longer today to make that than it should have. But it was a lot of fun. And it's going to help some families, because I do know that if you're not just a natural nerd, it can be very difficult and intimidating, and whatever word you might use, maybe even just underwhelming to get into board games. And so I hope to make that an easier, seamless transition for you. The links that go straight to Amazon, you can just buy a thing and try it out. And worst case scenario, you have a terrible experience together that you can all laugh about, like camping in the rain. And then my hope would be that this equips you to have these conversations, have these analog adventures, and truly grow in your awe and amazement of how good our God is and how he's wired us to enjoy and to grow in the lives he's given us. So would you join us next week then as we continue this conversation about how we can raise kids who love God and use tech?